Good morning. Today is November 9th, which is Kristallnacht commemoration day. The day that reminds us of the night of broken glass, which led to the greatest tragedy in Jewish history, the murder of 6 million innocent Jews, 1.5 million innocent children. At the same time, this week we'll read the Torah portion of Vayeira, which will have the story of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, where God tells Abraham to go to Mount Moriah and sacrifice his beloved son Isaac. And in the very last moment, God says, do not lay a hand on the lad. It was merely a test to see how faithful, how devoted you are, that you are willing to give up that which is most beloved and precious to you. But do not harm the lad, because God does not want us to hurt or harm, or God forbid, kill innocent people in the name of God. Judaism is a religion of life. Choose life. And therefore, the story of the Akedah teaches us that the most precious gift is our lives and the lives of others, and therefore never should one raise a hand to harm another in the name of any god or any religion. Tragically, in our generation, the greatest Akedah, the Holocaust, occurred, when Jews like Abraham had to transcend with superhuman strength their understanding of God's role in this world. They had to face the ultimate test, and they had to deal with the uncertainty of what would happen. How would God allow something like this to occur? But despite the confusion and the uncertainty, they maintained their faith in God until the end, and even transmitted it to their children and grandchildren as survivors, especially the generation of those Jews who left the Holocaust and went straight to Israel to reestablish the land of Israel with faith and devotion to God, and saying, we will fulfill a promise of returning to Israel from the exiles. That is the strength of Abraham, the remarkable superhuman faith in God that Jews have shown throughout the generation in many different Akedah challenges and circumstances. And so too in our personal lives. Sometimes we face moments like the Akedah in our own lives where our minds cannot grasp the will of God, the way of God, but yet we remain faithful like Abraham as Jews, and understand that God transcends even our greatest faculty, which is our understanding and our logic. And even when our mind cannot grasp, we still maintain our Jewishness and our faith in God. Last week, a woman by the name of Hannah Gosler passed away at the age of 93. She was Anne Frank's best friend. She wrote a book, Anne Frank, My Best Friend, which later was turned into a Netflix series. And Anne Frank in a diary talks about her best friend, Hannah Gosler. And Hannah met Anne when she was 6 years old. Both of their families had fled Germany after Kristallnacht and gone to Amsterdam. And their mothers took them to the grocery store, and they both spoke German. They didn't speak Dutch, so the mother started speaking, and that's when the girls met. And the next day, Hannah joined Anne's school. And Anna describes in a diary that when Hannah came the next day to school, she ran towards her and hugged her. She was so happy to see her. And they became best friends. And in her book, Hannah says she remembers being at Anne Frank's birthday party when her parents gave her a gift, which was the diary. And Anne Frank in her diary talks about her best friend, saying, why was I chosen to live and be in hiding while my friend was sent to Bergen-Belsen to die? Little did she know that she would end up tragically being murdered and dying, but her friend Hannah would survive. And then Anne Frank says, I went to sleep last night, she writes in a diary, and before my eyes was my friend Hannah crying, saying, why did you desert me? Why did you abandon me? And then in Hannah's book, she talks about meeting up after Anne Frank and her family were discovered. They were sent to Bergen-Belsen, and she learned that her best friend Anna Frank was in Bergen-Belsen, and they went to the barbed wire fence from a different section of the camp, and she saw her friend, but this time she didn't have her beautiful black hair, and she was crying and saying, I'm alone. I lost everyone. What am I living for? I'm starving. And then Hannah describes how she went back and collected scraps of food from her fellow female inmates and threw it over the fence for her friend Anna. Well, tragically, Anna got sick 2 months before the liberation, and died in Bergen-Belsen. Hannah went on to be liberated. And then in 1947, a relative brought her to Palestine. She came to Palestine, got married, and became a nurse at Bikur Cholim Hospital. And during the War of Independence, Hannah Gosler served many of the wounded, took care and treated many of the wounded during the War of Independence. Then she went on to have a family, 3 children, and then she had 11 grandchildren. And when she passed away last week at 93, she had 31 great-grandchildren. 2 friends, one murdered in her youth in Bergen-Belsen, one liberated and went to Israel and established a beautiful family. It just reminds us the tragedy of the Holocaust. Every one of those 6 million could have had children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren like Hannah Gosler. We don't understand 2 girls, why does one meet such a bitter fate? And one goes on to establish a beautiful family. Like Takedah, we have to maintain our faith even under the most difficult circumstances. That is the story of the Jewish people. That is the miracle of Jewish existence. On this day, let us remember the 6 million. And while we can't do 6 million mitzvahs today in memory of the 6 million like we should, but at least let us do one extra big mitzvah today in memory of the 6 million, to never forget them, to carry on their mission, their legacy, and their life through our good deeds by elevating their souls. Have a meaningful day.